Here's the thing about this week in college hoops. When Kentucky and Alabama share the same floor, you're not just watching another SEC game. You're watching a measuring stick moment. One of those nights that quietly tells you who's real, who's rising, and who still has work to do. This matchup has been circled for days, and for good reason, because the Wildcats' return comes with questions, momentum, and just enough belief to make this far more interesting than the odds might suggest. Before we get into the details, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on. Unfortunately, 99% of our viewers aren't subscribed, which makes YouTube think we're not relevant. The next stretch of content will be entirely focused on Kentucky-related news, roster moves, and league context. If you want to stay informed as things unfold, this is the place to do it. And as always, if you support this kind of coverage, hitting the like button helps more than you might think. Kentucky's return to the court couldn't be staged any bigger. After an unusual 10-day gap between games, the Wildcats open SEC play on the road in Tuscaloosa against a highly ranked, battle-tested Alabama team, and the timing alone adds weight to the moment. This isn't a tune-up. This is a spotlight game, one that immediately tests whether Kentucky's recent progress is cosmetic or meaningful. National eyes are already locked in, and the expectations surrounding this matchup reflects that. That anticipation isn't manufactured either. Andy Katz of the NCAA labeled Kentucky versus Alabama the best college basketball game of the week, placing it above several other marquee showdowns across the country. That kind of recognition speaks not only to Alabama's established credibility, but to Kentucky's recent trajectory. The Wildcats are no longer being discussed as a rebuilding curiosity. They're being framed as a team worth taking seriously again. The win over Bellarmine, while tighter than many expected, still represented another step forward in the Wildcats' recovery arc. This team is still fitting pieces together, still chasing consistency, but the confidence is visibly returning. Cam Williams drilling 8 three-pointers was a loud reminder of the offensive ceiling within this roster, even on a night that wasn't particularly clean or complete. It wasn't perfect basketball, but it was encouraging basketball, and sometimes that matters more. Now the degree of difficulty spikes dramatically. Opening conference play on the road against Alabama is a maturity test for Mark Pope's group. Nate Oats' Crimson Tide are comfortable in these environments, forged through a demanding non-conference slate that included wins over St. John's and Illinois, along with competitive losses against Purdue, Gonzaga, and Arizona. Alabama has already been punched, and they've responded. They play fast, aggressive, and without fear, which is exactly why this matchup is so revealing. The numbers help frame the challenge, even if they don't define it. In Andy Katz's Power 37, Kentucky checks in at 19, while Alabama sits at 11. Early projections lean toward the Tide. KenPom gives Kentucky roughly a 34% chance to pull off the upset, with Bart Torvik slightly more pessimistic, while ESPN's analytics are a bit more generous, pushing closer to a 40% scenario. Respectable, but still underdog territory. And yet, games aren't played on spreadsheets. What makes this matchup compelling is the timing. Kentucky arrives healthier, with a clearer rotation and visible signs of cohesion. The recent win streak hasn't erased flaws, but it has revealed a more connected and resilient group, one that looks increasingly capable of competing for a full 40 minutes. In the SEC, that's not optional. It's survival. For Mark Pope, this isn't just a conference opener, it's a diagnostic test. Road games like this expose weaknesses quickly, but they also accelerate growth. Competing against an opponent of Alabama's caliber can sharpen identity, validate progress, and solidify belief if the performance holds. Win or lose, the response matters. That's why Kentucky versus Alabama earns the Game of the Week label. This isn't just rankings versus rankings. It's narrative versus narrative. Alabama represents the known commodity. Tested, aggressive, confident. Kentucky represents momentum. Still forming, still proving, but undeniably trending upward. If the Wildcats are going to surprise, it won't come from projections. It'll come from discipline, sustained intensity, and the willingness to play through adversity in a hostile arena. No matter the outcome, This game will tell us a lot about how real Kentucky's recovery truly is. And while the hardwood commands attention, the broader Kentucky athletics picture tells an equally intriguing story. Amid the chaos of the college football offseason, the Wildcats are quietly reinforcing their identity as a program on the rise. Under the leadership of Stein, whose administrative and strategic vision has been evident since taking over, Kentucky football continues to build with intention. The hiring of Derek Wareheim as running game coordinator is the latest example of a process-driven approach rooted in long-term competitiveness. Wareheim arrives in Lexington with a diverse and well-rounded resume. His time at Texas, where he served as tight ends coach and special teams coordinator, highlights his ability to blend individual development with schematic cohesion. That hybrid skill set is valuable for a Kentucky team aiming to reestablish its running game while creating better synergy across the offense. His experience at Coastal Carolina under Tim Beck adds a creative dimension that could pay dividends in a league where tactical edges often decide outcomes. Early recruiting moves, including offering a scholarship to Kyler, a four-star prospect in the 2027 class, signal Wareheim's forward-thinking mindset. Development isn't just about the present, it's about sustainability. That philosophy aligns cleanly with Stein's broader vision of integrating administration, recruiting, and on-field execution into one cohesive ecosystem. The emphasis on the running game is especially telling. In the SEC, balance and physicality aren't luxuries, they're requirements. Wareheim's background coaching offensive lines at programs like Houston and New Mexico brings a technical depth that goes beyond surface-level play design. He understands leverage, blocking angles, and adaptability, which is crucial for a Kentucky program that has historically struggled against elite defensive fronts. His personal journey adds another layer. A standout center at Tulsa and a former Arena Football League player, Wareheim brings first-hand experience of leadership under pressure. That perspective resonates in a locker room and translates into credibility with players. Zooming out, the anticipated addition of Chad Wilt further reinforces Kentucky's defensive restructuring. According to Matt Zenitz of CBS Sports, this remains a reported move, but if finalized, it would bring a seasoned voice with deep Big Ten experience into the fold. Wilt's history working alongside defensive coordinator Jay Bateman at Army and Ball State creates immediate continuity, shortening the learning curve in a league where every week is unforgiving. Wilt's track record in player development speaks volumes. Multiple NFL draft picks, consistent defensive production, and success across stops at Indiana, Minnesota, and beyond illustrate why his name continues to surface. His work with Aaron Casey at Indiana is a standout example of translating coaching into measurable results. If confirmed, Wilt's arrival would signal a clear commitment to experience, technique, and developmental consistency. The linebacker unit, in particular, stands to benefit in a conference where reading plays quickly and controlling space often determines outcomes. Taken together, these moves reinforce a simple truth. Kentucky athletics is building deliberately. Whether it's the Wildcats testing themselves against Alabama on the road, or the football program methodically strengthening its foundation, the direction is clear. Progress isn't loud, but it's real, and that's what makes this moment worth watching.